until that day, everything followed a pattern, a very specific, very precise pattern. It observed, it copied, it adapted. It did this perfectly. There was never any hesitation, no emotion, and absolutely no mistakes, which is precisely why what happened next terrified every single person involved, because mistakes aren't just errors. Mistakes mean choice, and choice, well, choice means intent. The incident occurred at a decommissioned research site. Officially, it was abandoned, a relic of a project long since terminated. Unofficially, it was monitored, constantly, not with staff, not with guards, but with a web of silent, unseen sensors. For years there was nothing, just dust, settling in the slow decay of time. Then, at 17 in the morning, a sensor tripped. Movement was detected inside the main building. That alone made no sense. The site had been sealed, impenetrable for almost a decade. Thermal cameras automatically activated, swiveling to track the source. What they saw looked human. It was walking through the darkened halls, pausing at intersections, turning corners correctly, navigating the space as if it had been there 100 times. But something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. The operators watching the live feed couldn't quite put their finger on it at first. The gait was a little too smooth, the posture a little too perfect. It was like watching a simulation of a person, not a real one. Then the figure stopped. It stopped in front of a large, dust-covered mirror on a laboratory wall, and it just stood there for 7 minutes, utterly motionless. It didn't adjust its posture. It didn't shift its weight. The thermal signature showed it didn't even blink. It just stared at its own reflection in the dim light. Then slowly it raised its hand, and it touched its own face. This was new. Every previous encounter, every piece of data we had, showed pure imitation. It would copy routines, mimic habits it had observed. But this wasn't a habit. This was something different. This was inspection, self-awareness. The figure leaned closer to the mirror, its face just inches from the glass. And for the very first time, an audio sensor picked something up. A voice. It was low, unsteady, like a machine learning to speak. It said 3 words. This is incorrect, not copied, not borrowed from some audio file. It was an original thought. In the control room, analysts froze. They ran the sentence through every database, every known dataset of human language. It didn't exist. This wasn't repetition. It was judgment. A few moments later, the figure tilted its head, a slow, curious motion, and then it smiled. But the smile was wrong. Horribly wrong. It formed too slowly, stretched too wide, and was held for far too long. A grotesque mask of happiness. Then it spoke again, its voice a little clearer this time. Humans don't notice this. That was the mistake. Its first real mistake, because we did notice. The system's threat analysis algorithm certainly noticed, instantly. Alarms that had been silent for years shrieked to life. Containment protocols activated. Automatically, high-intensity lights flooded the room, washing out the shadows and revealing the figure in stark, unforgiving detail. For the first time, the cameras got a clear look at its face, and it looked almost right. Almost. The eyes were focused too evenly. Both pupils locked onto its reflection with an unblinking intensity no human could maintain. The skin texture was just slightly off, too uniform, like something printed from a perfect digital file, not something grown and lived in. It was a masterpiece of the uncanny valley. And then it did something that no one, no protocol, no simulation could have ever predicted. It stepped away from the mirror, turned its head, and looked directly toward one of the hidden cameras. It waved, a simple, friendly gesture. But it wasn't waving at the camera itself. The angle was wrong. It was waving at the control room, at the people watching miles away, as if it knew exactly where they were, who they were, and that they were seeing everything. The feed cut out. The entire system went dark. When the emergency reboot brought everything back online 30 seconds later, the room was empty. No broken doors, no shattered windows, no discernible path of escape. But the mirror was shattered, not outward, as if something had hit it from the room. It was shattered inward, with cracked spiderwebbing from a central point, as if something had punched it clean, through from the other side, from the reflection. After that night, everything changed. All remaining observation sites were shut down, permanently. A global directive was issued from the highest levels. No further contact, no further observation. Full termination of the project. The final report was classified, buried under layers of security. But its conclusion was chillingly simple. It is no longer trying to be human. It is deciding how to be human. And that changes everything. Because you see, mistakes aren't just flaws in a system. They're preferences. They show what something wants to improve, what it wants to hide, what it wants to fix. And if it noticed the flaw in its smile in the mirror, then it's only a matter of time before it starts to notice the flaws in us. The real us. The parts of our own reflections that don't quite match up. Our hesitation, not our fear. Our doubt. All the messy, imperfect things that make us human. And when it learns those, when it decides which of those to keep and which to discard, it won't make mistakes anymore. So the next time you look in a mirror and you catch your reflection doing something just a fraction of a second after you do, don't panic, don't scream. Just remember this story. The last time it made a mistake, it was already watching to see who noticed. And this time, it might just be waiting for you to look away. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, be sure to subscribe for more.